Alright, so this is 7-2 similar polygons. Alright, here's 3 vocab words you're going to need. Number 1, similar figures. Figures that have the same shape, but not necessarily the same size. Alright, so they have the exact same shape. Similar figures, as well as similar polygons. Alright, similar polygons have corresponding angles congruent and corresponding sides proportional. Basically, same thing, different size. Alright, like Mini-Me and Dr. Evil out of Austin Powers. Mini-Me is a 1/8 version. Alright, he's the same thing, just smaller. Alright, so or bigger. Okay, so similar figures, similar polygons, same shape, but either bigger or smaller. Scale factor, the ratio of corresponding measurements to 2 similar figures. Alright, so we're going to find something called a similarity ratio. That similarity ratio and the scale factor are pretty much the same thing. I'll show you on the next example exactly what scale factor is. Alright, so make sure you write down these 3 vocab words with their definitions. Alright, let's look at this example. Let's see if these are similar triangles. Alright, well, first thing you need to know about similar figures is the angles need to be the same. Alright, so let's look at this. Let's find out what angle A is congruent to in this smaller triangle. Well, this has one line, so look for the one with one line, angle X. Okay, so angle X will need to be the same as A. If this is 30, this is 30. Alright, they're not similar, they're exactly the same. The angles are. So angle C, congruent, it's got 2 marks. Angle Z has 2 marks. And then angle B, as you can see, it's marked at a right angle. Angle Y is also marked at a right angle. Alright, so now we know that our 3 pairs of angles match up. Now we can write what's called a similarity statement. Since similar to a congruent statement, alright, basically here, let's do triangle ABC. Alright, your similar mark is just 1 tilde. Okay, your similarity mark is just a single tilde. And then triangle, since I did ABC, alright, these have to stay in the same order. Since A is congruent to X, it has to be in the same spot A is. Since A is first here, X has to be first here. Since B is second here, Y has to be second over here. And since C is third, Z has to be third. Alright, you want to keep them in the same order. I didn't have to put A first, but wherever I put A in this side of the statement, I'd have to put X in the same exact side, in the same exact spot on this side of the statement. Alright? So now, let's find our similarity ratio or our scale factor. Alright, so let's find it for side AC to XZ. Okay? So, AC over XZ equals AC is 25, XZ is 10. You can factor out a 5, that comes down to 5 over 2. That is our scale factor or similarity ratio of these 2 sides. Now, if all 3 pairs of sides have the same similarity ratio or scale factor, that means that the similarity ratio or scale factor between the 2 triangles is the same thing, the same number. Alright, so now let's do CB over ZY. CB is 20 over ZY, which is 8. Alright, if you pull a 4 out, you go down to 5 halves again. Alright, so two of the sides are in proportion. Now we just have to double check to make sure the third side has the same ratio. If it does, the 2 triangles are similar at a 5:2 ratio. If not, they're not similar and we wasted our time. Actually, we didn't waste our time because we did prove that they weren't similar. Alright, so now let's do the final one. Let's do AB over XY. AB is 15. XY is 6. Well, if you pull, that's a 15. Well, if you pull a 3 out, you're left with 5 over 2. All right? So therefore, this is our similarity statement right here. And our similarity ratio of the two triangles is 5/2. You can either call it similarity ratio or to use the vocab word scale factor. The similarity ratio or scale factor between these two triangles is 5/2. All right? So we got to remember, you got similarity statement. You have to keep the letters in the same order. All right? A is congruent to X, so A and X start. B and Y are next, and then C and Z. They have, just like a congruent statement, they have to be in the same position in the statement. All right? Let's do one more problem, and I think I'm going to call this video a wrap. All right, here's our final problem. All right? We already know that these two trapezoids, okay, we already know that they are similar. Okay? So we already know that A, B, C, D is similar to E, F, G, D. All right, since we already know they're similar, we can go ahead and find the value of X, which is right here. Now, in order to do this, we need to set up a ratio. All right? Well, we know that the X corresponds to the 7.5. So we're going to do X over 7.5. And the reason we know that the X corresponds to 7.5 is because the BC and the FG are in the same position in our similarity statement. So therefore, we know that these two sides correspond to each other. Now, we know that has to equal 6 over 9. So we have DE in the same position as DA. Okay, even though they're overlapped, doesn't mean we can't reuse the vertice. All right, so since we know that DE and DA are in the same position, DE is 6, DA is 9. Okay, so now we just simply cross multiply. So we have 9x equals 6 times 7.5, which is 45. Divide both sides by 9. So x equals 5. All right, so FG here, we can now erase the x and replace this with a 5. Okay, so now we have another part of our similarity ratios. Okay, so our similarity ratio is actually 6 to 9, which can reduce. You pull a 3 out to 2/3. So a similarity ratio is 2/3. Okay, so now what we can do is we can actually use that similarity ratio to find y, or we can use 2 of the sides again. All right, I'm going to use 2 of the sides again. I'm not going to use a similarity ratio right now. In fact, I'm going to erase that altogether. All right, so we know DE and DA are corresponding. So let's write that in again. 6 over 9, DE over DA. Now, since we put the smaller one first, we're going to have to put the y on top again. And that corresponds to the 5 because EF and AB are in the same spot. So if you notice here, we have the smaller one over the bigger one. And on this side, we also have the smaller one over the bigger one. You're going to have to keep that in the same order as well when you do your ratios. If you put the small one on top in one of them, you got to put the small one on top of the other one. All right, so again, we're going to cross multiply. 9y equals 6 times 5, which is 30. Divide both sides by 9. So y equals 30 over 9. Pull out a 3. You get y equals 10/3. Or, for those of y'all allergic to fractions, you're going to get 3 and 1/3. I'd prefer leave it as the 10/3. But if you're absolutely allergic to fractions and you can't deal with them, all right, you left your Allegra at home, so you can use the 3 1/3. All right, so that's pretty much it for similarity. All right? You notice it is very similar to congruence, but in other ways it's also very different. Okay? So remember, similarity means it's the same shape. All right? Here, both of our trapezoids are the same shape, because of course this angle would be congruent to itself. Angle G here would have to be congruent to C. Angle F would have to be congruent to angle B. And angle E would have to be congruent to angle A. So we have the same shape. We just took Photoshop and grabbed the little handle here and just shrunk it down proportionally. Alright? So it's the same shape, just smaller. And then you find your similarity ratio, which we did find. So that's about it. Alright? So make sure you understand similarity, how to write the similarity statement. Remember, they have to go in the same order. Since A and E correspond, they have to be in the same spot. B and F, they have to be in the same spot. C and D, and then of course D and D. They have to stay in the same spot on each side of the similarity sign. Remember, a single tilde means similar. Alright? And one more time, just to get this into your head. Similar means the same shape, just smaller or bigger. Alright? And of course you have your similarity ratios. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. We're going to be working on some more of this tomorrow in class. So, see you tomorrow.